Good evening. Welcome to Right Talk with Mike Lee. I have this evening, I'm honored and blessed and privileged to have as my guests three individuals who are very close to me in various ways. I think they're all friends. I'm not sure, but the first to my immediate right is Mr. Jon Jewitt, Brother Jon Jewitt. The most beautiful part of the show is Marilyn Jackson. And on the far end over there is my buddy Corey Tabor, Reverend Corey Tabor. And this evening, I want to discuss with the group, between and among the group of us, an issue that's very important to me and should be very important to the African American community, if no one else. And that's the issue of abortion. And I'm going to show some clips from, I believe, the movie Mafia 21, and we'll take turns commenting on what it is we see. This issue, I believe, is very important to me personally. and should be to every African American, I believe, because of the effect that abortion is having on our population as a whole. I think that on the whole, we're suffering a decline, if not a static position in terms of population. And politically, this means that our political power is systematically being reduced.
Right.
And I know that many of my brothers and sisters of color, they support this madness under the guise of a woman's right to choose. I have some very choice observations and comments about this right to choose business because it kind of kicked off when I was in law school in 1974 between, let's see, it was Nancy, I call it Equal Protection Huggins and Sue Gorham. And I call it then, I'm going to just tell you, y'all know me. I call it white woman's right to choose. And I say that because at back in the 70s and before abortion became legalized, it disproportionately affected the white population. After it became legal, it disproportionately affected the black population. And so that's my own characterization of it. It was a white woman's right to choose. And they had been choosing anyway, but they had been choosing more than African Americans. And it becomes legal, and African Americans choose it more than white people.
Yeah. And I think sometimes they may have had a different reason why they chose to abort that baby. It may not have been misters. It may have been the servants.
Okay.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Seriously. It's kind of like, of course, Potiphar got away, but it was kind of like one of them Potiphar things, you know, where that woman was with that servant.
Now I want to lead off. Now I made a statement at the beginning about its disproportionate effect on the black community. There's a video clip that I hope that we can get out the first one. I mean, it gets right to the point.
What would you say is now the #1 cause of death in the African American community?
Heart disease.
Oh, HIV/AIDS.
Diabetes. Cancer. AIDS.
I'll say heart disease. AIDS.
From what I heard, it's probably AIDS, you know.
Probably heart disease.
I think heart disease.
HIV. Gang violence.
What if I told you the real answer was abortion?
Since 1973, legal abortion has killed more African Americans than AIDS, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and violent crime combined. Every week, more blacks die in American abortion clinics than were killed in the entire Vietnam War. And the largest chain of abortion clinics in the United States is operated by Planned Parenthood.
Knowing my panel as I do and having talked to them many times over the couple of years, this sounds like a Jon Jewitt. John, respond to what you just saw. To explain to me and the audience.
Okay, first of all, while it may be shocking to many in the audience, the numbers have been out there for a long time, years. I got interested in this topic and some other topics, so I follow the numbers, and I'm retired, so I have the time to read a lot, and these numbers aren't a surprise to me. They're heartbreaking, but they're certainly not a surprise. And I love history, and this idea, the ideas that brought us to this point started about 100 years ago with the so-called progressives in the early 1900s. And they were the ones that, what they call eugenics, and Margaret Sanger, and where they're going to weed out the bad genetics.
You mean Hillary's hero?
Hillary's hero, her role model. You know, the black kids are like weeds, and we have to pull them up. So, you know, I see this and say, yeah, doesn't everybody know this?
well, John, and everyone else, the thing that disturbs me most is people like the Congressional Black Caucus. It's like they're at the front of this thing, and they endorse and support this kind of thing. They're probably the most reliable votes for the maintenance of this crazy institution.
Yeah, I think what's frustrating about it is so much misinformation being communicated about the functionality of a group like Planned Parenthood, where they'll say that abortion is only 3% of their services being offered, but every birth control pill is considered a service. So that's 21 services, but it's really one service. Or, you know, every time a person goes in to have a pregnancy test, or and the amounts of money they charge for these procedures that are way above and beyond the cost, and then the way the federal government funds it with our money and then tells us we have to be okay with it is really frustrating. And then thirdly, if it was only 3% of their budget, they wouldn't care about it being defunded. But it's obviously more than 3% of their budget because it's something that they're fighting against. And so for us in our National African American Museum in Washington, D.C. to have a bust of Margaret Sanger honoring her impact on our community is pretty heretical and oxymoronic, in that many of our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and parents and grandparents and great-grandparents aren't here today because of the mindset that eliminating black and brown people to purify our national race was at the foundation of what she chose to do.
Marilyn, you're a lady, woman.
It's sad.
How, give me your reaction to that.
Oh. It's pitiful. It really is. But what really gets me is that if you're going to call yourself a Christian, I won't go there. But
go anywhere you want. Go anywhere you want. You're not gonna lie to me.
No.
You're not gonna lie to me.
No, I'm gonna tell you the truth. And what bothers me is that for the African Americans that do vote on a liberal ticket, they never think about, this being a platform on the Democrat Party. And I'm like, you look around, and you're right. We are missing so many people. We're missing them because they're gone. They never came. They were here, but they never made it. And when on this movie of Marfa 21, when it talks about the worst place or the unsafest place for a baby.
The most dangerous place for a black baby is in the mother's womb.
And that shouldn't be.
It should be. That should be the safest place to be.
Exactly.
I mean, the fact that in the state of New York, more black babies are killed than are born, in a state that is a very populous state and has a large black population, it's just disheartening. To think about, as you talked about, our voting bloc, our economic bloc. We have $1.2 trillion worth of buying power. How much more would that be if all of us were here?
Your voting bloc is being killed off systematically.
Systematically and intentionally.
But what's so insane about it is we have African Americans who vote Democratic like it's the thing to do.
Right. And they believe, like I talk to a lot of people because I work at a pregnancy resource center, and we talk about the choice that a woman has. And we never force a woman to make a decision to keep her child or in a place for adoption. We give them all their options, but and then hope that they choose wisely but the challenge is that everybody who's pro-choice is alive. Have you thought about that? Like, there's not one pro-choicer who didn't make it. And they were given the opportunity to live. And I think even if you don't want to parent a child, 9 months of your life, 40 weeks of your life, granted, I'm not a woman, so I've never carried a child in the womb. I have people that work for me who have. My wife obviously did.
Bruce Jenner gonna carry one?
Potentially, I think the challenge is
Ellie gonna knock him up.
It is 40 weeks of your life, but to abort I see the impact it's had on women on the backside, the psychological impact, the emotional impact, dealing with anniversary syndrome and post-traumatic stress syndrome and depression and anxiety and all kinds of issues. And so if we really cared about not only the child but the woman, we would encourage her to make a different choice, because it is not going to eliminate the problem. It's going to create a ripple effect of other problems.
Talk to us, Marilyn.
You know, my mom, I remember her when we were growing up, when she would say to us, why would you have an abortion? You live. I didn't kill you. Why would you kill a baby? You're here. You know? I think we do need to get back to our roots to some extent, because the thing of it is that nowadays an abortion is a birth control method. And my thing is that to a woman who has had multiple abortions, all the scar tissue and everything that could happen, what are you going to do when you really want to have a baby and you can't? When you finally settle down with the husband, what are you going to do if you can't have a baby? Because you've gotten rid of so many. It's not good.
John?
My mother had, she never told me how many, I'm guessing 2, abortions back in the late 30s, early 40s. And they were for economic reasons. I mean, there was the Depression, they couldn't afford to, they felt they couldn't afford to take kids. And she died when she was 92, and it haunted her all those years. And it twisted her. There's a big push now to abort defective babies, Down syndrome or whatever. If you find out your baby's genetically defective, there's a lot of pressure to kill it. Look at the outrage when Sarah Palin chose to keep her child with Down syndrome. That propaganda twisted my mother. She had depression, and she told me one time that she's sorry she didn't kill us all, abort us all, because depression was hereditary. And that is part of the destruction of abortion on women. And they never talk about it.
Well, it seems to me, I've had some friends who, in the medical profession, they characterize an unborn child as a fetus, like it's like a frog or something. And it just seems to me a bit incongruous to say dogs have rights, trees have rights, that Justice Douglas talked about in the case I read in law school. Trees have rights, dogs have rights, and unborn people don't? Something's wrong. It's barbaric, and it's just wrong.
And there's a huge double standard. I mean, if you think about it, I as a man, if my wife got pregnant and decided she did not want to carry my child, she can choose to abort, and I have no rights to that child. But if that child is born and we are no longer together, for 18 years, I'll be paying child support. If I were to harm a woman who's pregnant in a car accident on accident, I'm going down for double manslaughter, if not murder. But if she chooses to end the life of the child, there's no legal consequence. So not only do we have women that are being haunted by this, but we have men who have wanted to have their children. I have friends whose children have been aborted against their will, but they have no right to their child. And that is a huge double standard in our legal system that allows women to choose, even though there were 2 people involved in the process. So, you know, you got 2 people involved when it comes to taking care of the child, if the child is able to live, but then you have one person making the decision about whether or not the child gets to live.
So the man can get the man can get the burden, but not the choice.
Exactly. Or the blessing of a child. I mean, my friend told the girl, if you carry this baby to term, I will take care of this baby. I've got other kids, I will take care of this baby. She said, I don't want to have it. And it wasn't up to him. He didn't pay for the abortion. He didn't go to the abortion clinic. It was her choice, and it's quote unquote her body. But it's a double standard that needs to be dealt with.
If I get this other clip up, it's kind of interesting too. It may show that the abortion, the right to an abortion, is of paramount importance to black politicians. I think
the father of modern-day eugenics, proposed that population control clinics be concentrated in minority neighborhoods. And now today, the vast majority of Planned Parenthood clinics are located in our neighborhoods. Are we really so naive to believe that this is all a coincidence? We all know that drugs, alcohol, and tobacco are devastating, especially in the black community. We know that the big corporations target us with the ads and the marketing campaigns. And yet, we don't notice that Planned Parenthood is doing the very same thing? We need to pay attention to the fact that in the 1960s, when we as African Americans began to demand our civil rights, for the first time in American history, there began a widespread cry in our government for legalized abortion. Was that coincidence too? Or could it be that when we said we would no longer sit on the back of the bus, a place was being reserved for us down at the abortion clinic?
in my opinion, this like underscores the extent to which we who live in the black community have compromised ourselves and our values. And to me, in a sense, we've lost our minds. We go to church every Sunday and get up with all power, God, Jesus, all this mess, and then come out on Tuesday, second Tuesday in November, and forget that.
And it's funny because I talk to a lot of people about this issue who are believers and ask them, how can you support, a party and organization that is about eliminating our people? And they basically say, I feel like I can't legalize morality and I can't tell a person what they can choose to do, but that's untrue. The reason I don't speed today is because I'll get a ticket if I speed. The reason I don't carry a gun without a license is because I can get arrested for carrying a gun without a license. So we legalize morality all the time. We don't let people murder people without the consequences of the murder. And so I think it's short-sighted to think that you can't create laws that can limit the number of abortions, which is what I appreciate about our legislature, is they've made choices they know they can't eliminate abortion altogether with the current Supreme Court, because it's going to get shot down. But they've been able to put in place laws that decrease the number of abortions through how late an abortion can happen, 20 weeks in the state of Texas, or parental consent is necessary now under the age of 18 years old, or the 24-hour, rule, and having to see a sonogram and get the woman's right to know book. These are all things that are decreasing the number of abortions that are occurring, and it's making it, more rare than it was before. And so I think that we cannot be short-sighted enough to think that it's not something that is happening. And then, like you said, to actually be okay with these organizations being in our communities, it's like basically playing Russian roulette with our own people. To say, here in Austin, Planned Parenthood pays $1 for a 10,000 square foot space, on East 7th Street, right across from Houston Tennessee University. $1 a year to the city of Austin. And the city is like, keep pushing it. Hey, we have the right to make this resource available. You got people can't stay in their houses in East Austin because of property taxes, but you as an organization that gets federal funding and private funding.
And you have a city that's enabling, and it's enabling.
Exactly. Yes. In our community.
And then we have people in the black community who support that madness at 90% rate.
And it's
but something is wrong with us conservatives.
Well.
Right, and I have a friend, he says, I can't be a one-issue voter. Why not? There's more problems out there than abortion, but it's a fundamental issue that there is no other creation in society that eliminates itself on purpose. You don't see lions killing their cubs. You know what I'm saying? You don't see dogs killing their puppies. They do everything they can to help them live. And it is insensitive to believe that it is the best choice for a woman.
Now I speak now as a black professional and a person too. But in my profession, and I've got 4 years experience in this now, a black person, and I'm gonna include my mama, they believe that a white lawyer knows more than a black lawyer. I'm telling you. I grew up with this. I'm in law school. I'm going to work one day, and the guy at 740 said you should work on the parking lot. Man, the white lawyers know more than black lawyers. Yeah, oh yeah. I go to SMU. I'm sitting right next to him in class. How you come to that? These guys are nuts. These people are nuts. They are brainwashed. I'm gonna call it what it is. You have to be. But to buy it.
See.
To buy it. I'm just as good as them. Yeah, really. But because I learned early in my career, a black person, if you have a white person in law office, a black person right there, a black person will walk right by your office and go to what other office. Well, they know some people you don't know. They know something you don't know. Oh, yeah. When I took the bar exam, it didn't say bar exam for black people, bar exam for white people. Right. It had bar exam. Right.
And either you passed it or you didn't.
Well, my son was an assistant manager at a tire store, and he was working for a black guy, and most of their customers were black. And they used to laugh about it because you'll get somebody come in, and one black person will go to the black guy, and the other black person goes to the white guy. They don't want to go the other way. And it was, to them it was a joke because they didn't care. You know? But you're absolutely right.
I know I'm right because I've seen it. I've lived this. It's seen it happen. Right. My own mama believed that.
It's what our society communicates to us. And here's the interesting thing, and this is kind of in line with what it deals with ethnic identity development. If you don't believe that you as a community are valuable, then you will easily eliminate your own people. You will easily fight against your own people. You won't support your own people. I mean, the fact that they're, like I said, $1.2 trillion worth of buying power in the black community, but the black dollar stays in our community for 6 hours before it leaves our community compared to the Asian community where it stays in their community for almost 30 days. Why? Because we don't believe our product is as good. So when you see that happen, that, you know, people build their black businesses and they know they have to build it on non-black people. Because if we mess up one time in our business, people stop supporting us. But folks will mess up over them over and over again at Chili's or any other major franchise, and they keep going back. Because there's an understanding and a mindset that, you know, what is black is not as valuable. It's not as important. And so that's what I think leads to the open-mindedness about abortion in our community. And then the way that they spun it, I'm sure we're going to show some clips related to this, but from a concept of population control, like you deserve to lower the amount of your population to save your population because you can't afford to take care of your population. Man, that's some twisted thinking.
It's very twisted.
Some twisted thinking. To think that you can't find a way to take care of a child with all of the resources available in our nation, in our world. You can't find a way.
And you can give it to somebody that really wants it.
Exactly.
I mean, you can do that. Yeah, what would it be like if we had a law, even if it's right here in the state of Texas, for every African American before that wanted to have an abortion had to see a particular clip of Martha 21.
That would be interesting. It would be helpful. I mean, I think about it, and you know, and then a lot of the people I talk to, their focus is the whole, what about in the cases of incest or rape? Like, you shouldn't make somebody have a baby when they've been through a traumatic experience. So you're going to add another traumatic experience on top of that? I know people who have been raped who have carried their children to term and placed them for adoption. I know people who have been raped who carried their children to term and kept them.
Yes.
And they will tell you to this point, to this day, eliminating that child would not have changed what happened to them. And granted, someone say, well, when I look at them, I see the man who assaulted me. You see him in your sleep. You see him around the corner. You're going to see him. So why put another traumatic experience in your life that will keep you from being able to have the kind of healthy, you know, process you need to move forward? Do we need counseling? Yes. Do we need medical assistance and support? Yes. That's what pregnancy centers are for. And here in Texas, with our Healthy Women's Network, we provide all of the same resources that an organization like Planned Parenthood provides other than abortion.
Well, certainly those are needed more than transgender bathrooms.
Come on. Because I ain't heard of nobody getting molested in no bathroom by no transgender. But that's a whole nother subject.
If I get this next clip up, I'd like to get your comment on that one, John.
What would you do as president? Fix the economy, end the war, restore our schools?
Well, the first thing I'd do as president is sign the Freedom of Choice Act.
Really? Obama's top priority as president will be a law to reinstate partial birth abortion, eliminate parental notification, and force taxpayers to fund abortions?
On this fundamental issue, I will not yield, and Planned Parenthood will not yield.
Barack Obama, dangerous values. Family Research Council Action PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I ain't laughing.
That's the great black savior. God sent the great Barack Obama. First item of business, save Planned Parenthood.
In Margaret Sanger's writings, and I tried to find the primary source, but it's in a library somewheres, and it just isn't available unless I want to go to Illinois or wherever it is. She said that what we'll have to do is hire black preachers, because preachers back in the 30s were the leaders in the black community, to sell this idea. Okay, that's what they've done. Barack Obama, Jesse Jackson, and Al Sharpton, they're all selling this idea to the black community. And like I said earlier, this didn't happen in the last 6 years or 8 years or 10 years. This has been going on since early 1900s. Okay, now we're just waking up to it, and that's a real shame that it's taken so long, 100 years, for the people like us, you know, the working people, the caring Christian people, to wake up and see what's happening. And it's.
I'm gonna be honest. I knew nothing about it until I started working at the pregnancy center. I had no idea how many abortions were happening in our nation. I think it's become something.
And what's your background, Corey? You went to UT, right?
I went to the University of Texas. Yes. Grew up in West Texas in Abilene, so it was a very conservative, religiously conservative city. So I'm sure it was happening, but we didn't know about it. And their Planned Parenthood closed not long ago, but Planned Parenthood just raised $9 million to put 2 Planned Parenthoods back in Abilene and Midland, you know, in order to try to make it available again. They won't do second-term abortions, but they'll do what they call medical abortions, where they provide the medication to eliminate the fetus. But I think that what we have to do is continue to educate people and get them in front of films like this. That's why we're showing this Thursday night at Houston Tillotson at 7 o'clock, because we want young people and people in our community to have opportunities to see this documentary, because it puts the facts out there. And you can't deny the facts. You can talk all you want to about what you think the rights of the person is, but the statistical facts are 70% of these Planned Parenthoods are in black and brown communities, and African Americans are being eliminated at a higher rate than other people. And the ways that they, like in the video, they talk about the whole preacher's contest and being able to earn additional money for your church to preach a great population control sermon.
When the word of God says, be fruitful and multiply.
Right, and thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not kill. You're absolutely right. You mentioned Jesse Jackson, and I'm like, what a person. You're talking about, he sold his soul, you know, to talk about genocide, and then when you offered money for your campaign, you lost anyway.
You're gonna lose.
That was some dirty money.
Right.
All money ain't good money.
Right.
And then you lost anyway.
That's dominoes. Everybody know that.
Right.
You know, but you changed up your whole mission. You changed up your passion. Is what he done. And you're talking about selling your soul. He sold his soul.
Right.
Cheap.
Cheap.
Yeah. And all of that is in the documentary. You know, so I definitely recommend people go online, check it out. Also coming here at Houston Tillotson in the Argard Lovingood Auditorium on Thursday night at 7 p.m. because you can't watch this film and not want to do something about it.
I think that's a great idea that y'all show this film.
No, I didn't. Honestly speaking, I didn't know about the film until I was on the lady who's working with Pokey. She has a show, the Christian show. She's the one turned me.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Gandy.
Mari Gandy is the one who got me to it, and that's been in the last year. And I didn't know about it.
It's pretty deep. I
It
mean,
is.
it's real and it hurts and the truth hurts.
Right.
And then you think about, Lord, there's so many people that are missing in our culture. Who, I mean, we don't know who they would have been, what famous person they would have been, or
The question I ask myself all the time, I mean, I've lost both of my in-laws to cancer, my wife's grandfather to cancer. And I'm like, is the cure to cancer in the ground? Because we aborted it. Is the cure to depression, ADHD, diabetes, are all these things that we could have solved by now? Did we eliminate the people that would have brought those to pass? And we don't know. We don't know. And when you look at the biblical times, I mean, they tried to get rid of Jesus. He had to run to Egypt as a refugee. They tried to get rid of Moses, you know, and he made it down. So this is not new. This is something we've been seeing throughout history, an elimination of people that are considered to be less than or not as valuable. And when you look at it in Egypt, they didn't want the Hebrews to become more populous than them because they knew they would overrun them. And it makes you wonder, are they concerned about us becoming more populous? I mean, where I grew up, I was homecoming king, student body president, speech team president, top 5% of my class. But most of the white people in my community would not let me date their daughters because they didn't want a kid with 1% black blood in them. And I wouldn't even have sex. But it was just this understanding that, well, you know, he might try to have sex with my daughter, and then I would have a kid that has black blood. And that's in the 90s. You know, this isn't the 70s or the 60s. This is in the 90s. So we have a lot of work to do.
we have a lot of work to do.
We have a lot of work to do.
And it starts with us.
It does.
It starts with us. I mean, the more African Americans we can educate and just let them see, what are you doing?
Right.
You know.
And here's the other thing I'll say, and you know, I'm the chaplain of the Republican Party of Texas.
Right,
So obviously I've made a decision to support this party by putting time and energy and resources behind it. But even if you're a Democrat, you don't have to be a pro-choice Democrat.
Exactly.
You can be a pro-life Democrat. We have legislators in our, a legislator in our state legislature who is a pro-life Democrat. So don't say, well, I have to support everything this party, you know, believes in order to be a part of this party. We need people working on both sides of the aisles to eliminate this issue.
And what about, what do the people want?
Right.
It's not even, it shouldn't even be about your party.
Right.
It should be about your people,
Right.
about
Yes.
your God.
Yes.
But then we know that the Democrats and liberals are largely godless anyway. They think they're God.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of, well,
There's a lot of people that claim to be Christian that are.
Yes.
And I think you can be Christian and be a Democrat. I think the big thing is,
of course.
are your belief systems lining up, and are you speaking truth to power? I mean, in my
You're
role,
speaking truth to yourself.
to yourself, yeah, but also to power. In my role as chaplain of a party, Republican Party, I speak to them about things that I think need to change to help our people. I speak to them about things I think need to change about the way we do business, because even in the Old Testament, you had spiritual political leaders. Joseph was a spiritual political leader. David was a spiritual political leader. Solomon, Esther. So you can't get in there and then just kind of ride the party line. You got to get in there and say, hey, have we thought about how this aligns with our values?
Well, I'm probably to the right of anybody. I really am.
Right.
And I say it honestly because I believe it's true. I say on most of my shows that what is good for the black community is good for the community.
Right.
And I'm going to say it until the cows come home. They're not home yet. They're working their way there, though. Because I believe that's true. Because and the name of my show is Right Talk, because I believe the right talk is talk that's first of all true, and it informs and inspires and helps. And it doesn't. A lie doesn't help. It may help temporarily, but ultimately the truth is what it's all about.
Yes. And I have to keep in mind too that abortion is not just a color thing, although it affects the African American culture the most, but really no baby should be aborted.
Right.
No child should be aborted. I mean, really. It's sad, that we kill our babies.
A few years ago, I worry about this kind of stuff. So I decided that I wanted to learn more about what's going on in the black community and see if I could maybe change some of the perceptions. So I went to a black church
on the east side. That's where I met you. First met you, I believe.
I was the token in the church, which they were really nice and really friendly to me.
That's where I met you from.
New Hope?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That is it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I used to, but I shouldn't mention this about people, but I talked about the Annunciation Maternity Home, where it's the only place in Austin where a woman at risk can go and have her baby in safety, and they'll keep a girl and her baby there for 2 years, teach them life skills, educate them, and all that. And I thought, well, that'd be really cool because the disproportionate number of girls up there are black. Okay, they're saving black lives. No, we don't have any interest in doing that. And I asked them about, there's a down in East Austin, there's a charter school for the last hope kids. This is the last place that'll take them, and they're doing a real good job. Well, how about, they're lifting the kids up out of poverty. No, we don't have any interest in doing that. And I asked around, and I says, have you ever, I've only been going there for a couple of years, but I asked them, have you ever, one time, heard a prayer for those babies, all those black babies that are being aborted? And these are people that believe life begins at conception, but never heard someone say a prayer for, that's about 800,000 abortions this year. I've never heard a prayer for the Lord to soften the heart of one of those women so one of those babies will live. Just isn't worth even a prayer. And I got sort of discouraged because that wasn't where I wanted to go. It's the church of feel good. There's problems and we have to address them. And if it doesn't, we're going to tear this republic apart.
Right. And if you think about it, one of the things that we've learned in the pregnancy center world is, we're not judging people who've made this choice. We are very gracious in helping them get healing from the process. I have a friend who had an abortion, 16 years old, in California, non-parental consent state, non-parental notification state. So she went and had an abortion without her parents even knowing. She said the procedure was perfect. Follow-up, non-existent. She said, nobody helped me grieve my child. Nobody helped me figure out how to recover from this experience, physically, psychologically, emotionally. And that's what pregnancy centers do. We help people who have made this choice. So when people say you don't care about the mother, you don't care about the woman, you don't care about the child, our pregnancy center cares for women through the first 2 years of the child's life and beyond, and then get them connected to local churches and other organizations to provide the support that's needed. So I say to people who are supportive of Planned Parenthood, what are they doing for women after it's over? Once they've gotten their money, and once they've completed the procedure, they're going to give them low dosage birth control so they can get pregnant again. They're going to give them a defective condom so they can get pregnant again. Are they going to encourage them to come back when they have another problem?
It's an industry.
It's an industry.
Of course. So they made their quota.
Right.
They got that money.
Right.
Another black baby.
Yep.
In MAPA 21, it's amazing when these black babies are earmarked for abortion. I mean, any person can call and donate monies to Planned Parenthood. But when you say, I want this money is going towards a black baby.
Well, I look at the diversion and distraction. They had you worry about the prison pipeline. What they're doing, there won't be a pipeline at all. Won't be any people.
Right. There won't be no people to reproduce any people.
I like the joke of Black Lives Matter, except when they're in the mother's womb.
Right. I preached a sermon at my church called Black Lives Matter in the Womb. And, we look at the scriptures, it's very clear.
Black lives only matter if the police shoot them.
Right.
And it has political value. It can be used to gain political value.
Right. Exactly.
something for liberal white people to holler about.
Liberal people in general.
And they get those African Americans and Negroes, and I'm gonna leave right there.
Right.
There's actually a couple other choices, but the real ones,
right?
The real sellouts.
You know, but we have to stop doing it to ourselves as a race of people. We have to.
Because nobody else is going to care about us more.
We can solve the problem.
We can.
We don't need your help on this one, John. We got this.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I thought I could help, and I can't. I'm the wrong color.
Yeah. I mean, you can help by being a voice and being an ally and using what you have.
I can do that.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. But they're not going to listen to people that don't look like them. It's just the reality of it. They're going to say,
isn't there a word for that when you don't listen to people that look like you?
Well,
yeah.
I have said this about your people, Corey. I have said African Americans are the only living thing that I know of that chases after things unlike itself. Red ants run with red ants, blackbirds run with blackbirds, eagles run with eagles. But them African Americans, they run after them. There's nothing to them. It's important to them, it seems to me, as liberal white affection. Oh, I like you. I don't know if John likes me or not. And frankly, at the bottom line, I really don't give a damn.
Well, you are sort of a jerk.
I buy that.
But y'all two can come and agree
But
on
it's
certain things. You know.
But if I'm trying to do something on Juneteenth or something, I can probably call John, help. I need some help with this on Juneteenth.
He's gonna give you some help.
It has nothing to do with.
Except I got my own booth.
It has nothing to do with it.
You got your own
I got my own booth in Round Rock.
I've been in your booth too.
Right.
What you at your booth?
Well, at first I used to give
good
snow
stuff,
cones
man.
away.
Okay.
But the vendors got annoyed with me giving stuff away, so they won't let me do it anymore. So I just have an information booth.
Oh, awesome.
And I think I was your booth the last 2 years, I believe.
Wow.
Because there's a nice setup up there in Round Rock. It's nice. It's better than one in Austin, actually.
Yeah, Rhythm and Ribs. They got all kinds of black music.
And he had good stuff. He had some
ribs.
good stuff to give away. I gotta find out where he orders that stuff from.
Okay. Yeah, hit you up, Jim.
Yeah, well, I got like, I use them for bait. Like I got Mardi Gras beads, red, white, red, silver, and blue. Mardi Gras beads. I use them to get the kids to bring their parents over so I can talk to them.
I got
like
one
chummy.
more clip. I got 3 more clips. One more I want to get to because we got time limit here. We can get that up, please.
If you're like 7 in 10 Americans, you probably haven't heard anything at all about Planned Parenthood killing unborn babies and then selling their body parts to the highest bidder. You've probably heard about a random dentist killing a magic lion out in Zimbabwe. You've probably heard about Miley Cyrus's armpit hair, but the media don't want you to know that your tax dollars are funding the mass murder and organ harvesting of actual children in the womb. I'm Ben Shapiro, and this is Hardwired. So, why are the media covering up the brutality of Planned Parenthood? Because it might make you uncomfortable. Worse, it might make Democrats uncomfortable because Democrats love Planned Parenthood. The Democratic Party platform stands for the ability of a woman to crush her baby's head 1 minute before birth, and they want you to pay for it. It's actually in their platform. Quote, Democratic Party strongly and unequivocally supports Roe v. Wade and a woman's right to make decisions regarding her pregnancy, including a safe and legal abortion, regardless of ability to pay. President Obama, as a state senator in Illinois, he actually called for a fully formed living baby to be killed after birth. He said such a child was merely a fetus outside of the mother's womb. That's how Democrats think. We have it on gruesome tape. Here's a top Planned Parenthood doctor talking about how to use less crunchy techniques to kill babies so that their organs can be more easily sold.
How he feels about using a less crunchy technique to get more whole specimens.
And here's another top Planned Parenthood doctor talking about the ease with which baby intestines can be harvested and eyeballs can be extracted.
These orbits are good too, because at this stage you start to get the retinal pigment epithelium, which is in the back, which is you've collected that before.
So all the orbits are so easy.
It's just delightful. A third top Planned Parenthood doctor negotiated over baby body part prices while standing over a tray of dissected children.
I think the per item thing works a little better just because we can see how much we can get out of it.
Now, naturally, Hillary Clinton thinks the people who do this are just wonderful.
I'm proud to stand with Planned Parenthood.
But when Hillary Clinton is shown video of Planned Parenthood doctors talking about selling organs, even she pretends to find it, quote, disturbing. People who claim they're disturbed by the sale of baby organs, but are totally fine with the crushing of their heads, are moral idiots. It's like saying you're disturbed by the whipping of American slaves, but not by anyone holding them as slaves in the first place. Here's the truth. Abortion ends a human life. The science is settled. By 3 weeks after sperm meets egg, the baby's brain, spinal cord, heart, and other organs begin forming. That's about the time when most women notice they're pregnant in the first place. By week 4, we've got early facial features. By week 7, the baby has toes. By week 9, the baby is developing external genitalia. By week 10, the baby has started growing fingernails. And that's all in the first trimester. That's the least controversial abortion period. But we treat these innocent human lives as junk for the garbage disposal. During the first 3 months of pregnancy, doctors plunge a tube with an edged tip into the womb. They then use the suction power of the tube to literally tear apart the child while it's alive, and then suck the pieces out of the mother's womb. This is called suction aspiration. Unpleasant? Try dilation and curettage. In this version of abortion, doctors use a curette, which chops up the baby inside the womb and then scrapes it right out. As the baby grows, the methods of abortion get uglier and uglier. There's dilation and evacuation, in which doctors use a forceps to crush the baby, including its brain and spine. The pieces are then removed. And as a last resort, doctors use partial birth abortion. Democrats love partial birth abortion. This is a procedure in which doctors use an ultrasound. They find a baby's legs with the forceps. They pull it into the birth canal. They deliver the entire baby except for the head. And then they stab the baby in the skull with the scissors, insert a suction tube into the skull, and suck out the brains. This is also the preferred method for ensuring that the internal organs are best preserved, so Planned Parenthood can hawk them to Big Pharma. Taken in total, these various forms of abortion and others are used to murder approximately 3,000 babies every single day in America. That's over 1 million babies a year. That's 55 million children since Roe v. Wade. The media want to keep us blind to these facts, or perhaps we want to blind ourselves. But by blinding ourselves to murder, we become complicit in it.
These practices were actually opposed by the president. But what has happened is mainstream media has black people so bamboozled, they're more worried about the president supposedly being a racist than things like this that disproportionately affect us. It's just wrong. It's just time to wake up.
You know, I think if you had that kind of information made available to people prior to them voting, prior to them communicating their desire to be pro-choice. I mean, you know, our friend Abby Johnson, you know, ran a Planned Parenthood in College Station, was responsible for overseeing thousands of abortions. And when she saw a baby running from the needle, and it hit her, like, they can feel this. They know what's going on. And she stopped. You know, she now runs, and then there were none, an organization designed to help people get out of the industry. Her book Unplanned is about to become a movie. So we're not talking about what we have heard. We're talking about what we now know from people who have worked in the industry. I know people who used to teach sex ed for Planned Parenthood, and their model is to break down your natural modesty, to get you to begin exploring sexuality and sexual activity in order to get you to be sexually active so that they can get you...
They want to create sex acts.
Create people that are connected to engaging in sex. If you think about it from a biblical perspective, we weren't created to stop having sex. The goal was to get married and then have sex until you die. That was the goal. Because you were going to be with that, or until they die, right? But when you start having sex at 15, 16, 17, and then people say, well, we should just give kids contraception. But the reality is contraception has to be used consistently and correctly to get the highest risk reduction. And what 18-year-old do you know that can do anything consistently or correctly? I mean, 15-year-old. Yeah, 15-year-old, 16-year-old. So I just think it's irresponsible to tell people they can engage in sexual activity without consequences because there is a plan B. Well, I know people who tried plan B and it didn't work because they can go get an abortion. I mean, we know people in the pro-life movement who survived an abortion. So, you know, we have to be honest with people and give them all the information and then let them make an informed decision.
The hard part is getting the information to them because the dinosaur media, whatever you want to call it, Austin American Statesman, the news stations, they don't talk about stuff like that.
Right. And they call us anti-abortion. I was talking to somebody when we were getting ready to sing at the Rally for Life, and he said, "Oh, is that an anti-abortion rally?" No, it's a pro-life rally. So aren't y'all against abortion? No, we're for life. And I think if we're going to continue to change the communication, we got to keep telling people what we're for instead of what we're against. That's what it's going to be about.
We're for life.
We're for life.
So sales and education is the bottom line.
Yes. Yes.
I've got a few minutes to wrap up here. I want to thank you, fine people, for appearing on my show as my guest today. It's my honor and my privilege. And this topic, as I said, is very dear to me. And I think it's very important and very crucial. And it's very important to try to wake people up to the reality of what is, not what we want, not what we think, not what we hope, but what is. And I hope that we have succeeded in at least enlightening some people and at least getting them to ask some questions about some things. Because the biggest problem is no one's questioning anything. No one's asking any questions.
Right.
No, and there's no hesitation to endorse this madness. Again, I want to thank you for being on the show, and I hope that you'll consider coming back again, because this is something that needs to be talked about more than once.
Right.
It's not a one-time, one-shot does it.
Right.
This has to be part of an ongoing process of educating and informing. And I hope I can count on you to at least come back at least one more time, at least.
Oh, yes. We'll definitely be back. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
The pleasure's mine. We're just trying to do the right thing. That's what it's about.